Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a very slightly red week. 2% down, or about £9,000 on the portfolio. We're not really in correction territory. This is sort of sideways price action. Been sort of preparing for a Bitcoin crash down to sort of $50,000. That being a sort of 35% correction, but it doesn't seem to be coming so far. We're still getting sort of various inflows and outflows in the ETFs, but yeah, we're sort of sticking around. So maybe it just has a little bit of sideways for sort of a few more weeks. Could be up to the halving potentially. But yeah, let's sort of have a dig into the news. So just looking at the CoinShares report, we had the biggest, again, record-breaking week of inflows. We know this is because this is a 5-day-old report. Next week is, well, should be a great deal worse. Could potentially be fully negative, depending on other countries. But yeah, it's sort of just a blip, we think. 2.9 billion dollars inflow compared to 2.7 previous week. Grayscale obviously a reasonable amount down. iShares having the biggest gain. Sort of Fidelity dropping back. Bitcoin obviously taking the vast majority of all this money. Ethereum down 14 million for the week. Multi-asset up slightly, Solana down slightly, although that had a very big week last week. And yeah, Binance Coin, Litecoin, some small gains. Short Bitcoin up quite a lot. That's yeah, 20% of the total AUM increased this week. So people getting into shorting. Obviously, it's a tiny amount of the total inflows into spot ETFs, but yeah, people are wanting to short. A little bit for Cardano, a little bit for Polkadot as well. That's sort of 54 million in assets under management, so a 3 million inflow is reasonable amount. Haven't really seen Polkadot on there too much. And yeah, by country, still outflows from Canada, Germany, Sweden, and Switzerland. Inflow into the US. So yeah, maybe that is just money flowing towards the BlackRock ETF. A little bit of a gain in Brazil as well. They're sort of seeing a fair amount of gain. But looking at the more up-to-date news, we have seen 5 days in a row of outflows on a net basis for the US ETFs. This has sort of mostly come from Grayscale still being fairly high on the outflow side. We sort of saw it slow down a little, and then we've seen some fairly big days. A lot of people saying this is Genesis, a large unlock and sale from Genesis from some lawsuits and bits and pieces, and this may quieten down again, as well as sort of the larger new ETFs slowing down a little bit. So you saw a 75 million and a 49 million inflow day for the BlackRock fund, and sort of very, very low for Fidelity. I expect this is probably profit taking, so there's money still going into these ETFs, but some other people are sort of taking profits at all-time highs, and it just results in a lower net inflow. And then you'll have some of this GBTC, Grayscale selling, probably still going into the BlackRock and Fidelity ones, so that sort of creates a bit of sideways movement. Doesn't really have too much of an impact on the price, you would think, but sort of makes these numbers a little bit higher. So potentially these really are negative. It's just money moving from GBTC into them. But yeah, well, you might see this sort of continue for a week or two. Who knows? Maybe up to the halving. But I would expect the sort of inflows to resume again at some point. Still got a lot more funds being having these ETFs unlocked, and clients sort of presumably requesting them. So yeah, we'll see if inflows resume. Something that isn't resuming is positive news from the EU. We've sort of continued to see bit of a difference between the EU and the European Central Bank, but this is the EU itself moving to ban sort of anonymous crypto transactions and limits on cash transactions as well. This sort of seems to be just more of a push towards digital, potentially a central bank digital currency, a sort of digital euro, but just one to crack down on money laundering, basically. So outlawing certain limits for cash. They're obviously not keen on cash. They've been, if you want to sort of withdraw or transfer like 10,000 euros, they're saying, that's a bit weird. What are you doing? And they sort of want to know everything about you. So yeah, they're sort of moving away from cash, but as part of that, they say people could be using crypto. So they're sort of putting regulations on that, and they're basically saying they don't want you using self-hosted self-custody wallets at all. So they want everybody, if you want to buy crypto, on ETFs presumably, or on Coinbase or something where they can track. So bit of a strange situation to be in, considering they're sort of putting in their new regulations, and I thought there was a bit of pro self-custody in the regulations as well. But yeah, weird. This I just thought was quite funny to highlight the Cathie Wood sort of maybe not feeling like she's in the limelight enough. The ARK Bitcoin ETF is sort of lagging behind. As you can see, they're at sort of $2 billion, where you got Fidelity at sort of 3.5 times their size. So why not say start raising your target again and again? She sort of had a $1 million per Bitcoin target for 2030. She never does sort of targets 1 or 2 years out. It's always 5 years ahead or by the end of the decade and that sort of thing. So people will presumably forget those by the end of the decade, and you can put a massive, massive number on it. So yeah, $1 million in 6 years from $63,000 seems a little bit high, and then she sort of raised it to $1.5 million in January. And since the ETFs, the flood of institutional demand, she says it can push the price higher. So we've gone from sort of 40,000 to 65, 70,000, and that has made her raise her price target for the end of the decade from $1.5 million to $3.8 million. She's basing this on now the ETFs are here. If institutional investors were to allocate a little more than 5% of their portfolios to Bitcoin, as we think they will over time, that alone adds $2.3 million per Bitcoin, remember, to the projection that I just gave you, which was 1.5 million. So it's based on, almost all institutional investors going over 5% allocation to Bitcoin. They've never had anything like that allocation to gold, so not sure why they would sort of go for Bitcoin. They don't sort of tend to like commodities. They don't tend to like anything that doesn't produce cash flows or a yield or anything. So yeah, putting over 5% in it just because recently it has been going up seems a little bit far-fetched. But yeah, $3.8 million. Well done, Cathie. Something that we should focus more on than Cathie Wood's bold predictions is BlackRock creating a new fund, tokenized. They sort of made a big investment into Securitize to sort of push this forward as quickly as they can. Obviously, Larry Fink seems to be spokesman for the industry now, which is very good because they're the largest asset manager. And they've made a new fund called the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, or BIDL, of course, to get the acronym. They even seem to be using the sort of degen speak now. Yeah, incorporated in the British Virgin Islands, so they're sort of going all in. And it does seem like so it's launching with 100 million of USDC. And it seems more a sort of money market yield product, basically, sort of more like a stable coin. So you sort of put your money in and you get your sort of US Treasury amount, but it's tokenized, and presumably he wants to test out what he's been saying for a long while, that it could trade potentially longer hours than ordinary stock market hours, and that everybody would have sort of an individual stake in it and voting rights and everything on the blockchain. He's sort of been saying this for a while, that BlackRock making voting decisions on behalf of people isn't really right, and sort of as their assets under management grow, they're having sort of bigger stakes. You know, they have 10% stakes in an awful lot of companies just from their indexing and ETFs. So they think people voting on blockchain on various sort of company related issues is better. So tokenizing, you know, he's basically saying tokenize the whole world. And yeah, he's sort of building this fund on Ethereum, so that's quite good. I think there's doubts as to whether he'll sort of be building everything he wants to build on Ethereum, but obviously it's not going to happen on Bitcoin. So yeah, got to build it either somewhere or have a sort of private blockchain, but doesn't seem to be super pro private blockchains. They have the Ether ETFs. We have had a lot of doubt thrown into the mix on the Ether ETFs recently, with sort of potential Department of Justice sort of intervention, potentially SEC suing the Ethereum Foundation. That's been sort of talked about. It seems to be rumours at this point, but yeah, we'll have to sort of keep an eye on that. There is some people sort of saying that once Larry Fink's involved, basically things do seem to happen. There were sort of years and years of Bitcoin spot ETFs proposed, and they were always rejected. And then, you know, 6-9 months after Larry Fink gets involved, they are all 9 of them are approved. So yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum ETFs sort of slated for May, June time. Whether they'll go through, maybe they get a bit of a delay, but BlackRock's one is in sort of final decision. I think theirs is June. The first ones are May, but yeah, whether they get rejected, that would be their second rejection ever. But yeah, go on, Larry. And just to highlight the Bitcoin halving, of course, various sort of different websites are predicting this is, 23 days, 27 days away. CoinMarketCap have got it 26 days. It's, much, much easier to predict, you would think, coming up, because we've only got sort of 4,000 blocks to go. Sort of block every 10 minutes. It's, the times should be getting closer and closer together. But yeah, less than a month to go. And just looking at the Ethereum burning, it does appear that we are, as of the last day, not burning. We are increasing. 493 net increase in Ethereum supply. Obviously, some is still getting burnt, but less than the staking reward. So we come down below 120 million and 70,000, and it's sort of slightly risen above that. You see on the 7-day, it's sort of leveled out and has started slightly rising again. 30-day, it's all pretty much leveled out. And yeah, since the merge, it's sort of going on this wave pattern, and it's sort of leveling out from what was quite a steep downtrend. So yeah, it's nothing to get too worried about that it's risen slightly. You know, we had this sort of period in September, October, November time where it was sort of rising quite a bit and then resumed a rather steep downtrend. So yeah, still all looking pretty good. So looking at coins for the week, it's sort of fairly quiet by the end of the week, but we've had a huge swing sort of upwards and downwards. I think it got as high as 480 and sort of as low as 420 just during the week. So yeah, that's sort of rather volatile, but by the end of the week we are 1.17% down on Bitcoin, so not a huge change. About 5% down on Solana. That's still sort of bobbling around, but pretty much at all-time highs. Ethereum 4% down, still sort of struggling against Bitcoin. Chainlink up 1.5%, not too bad. Cardano down 3%, XRP up 4%, although it's sort of rarely doing better than the market, so that is a bit of a one-off. Gala up 2%, not too bad. Audius down 2%, Matic down 4.7%, Power Ledger down 1%, Quant up 4.6%, that's pretty good. Internet Computer up 12.6%, that's the outperformer for the week. Basic Attention Token pretty much flat, and VeChain up 3.7%. So not too bad from some of the smaller altcoins, and sort of Bitcoin, just as I say, hovering around this area. We'll have to see whether we get more of a steep correction, or if it just hovers around for a bit and resumes the uptrend. Or we could hover around here for months potentially. I think that wouldn't be unhealthy for the market. Certainly previous bull runs, we haven't sort of had a continuous uptrend forever. We sort of have these long, longer than this consolidations for a few months, maybe maybe a month or two after the halving, and then sort of resume an uptrend till sort of mid 2025. I think if we sort of resume straight away to uptrend, people will go back to being worried that the cycle will end much earlier, sort of as a lot of people are watching Bob Lucas for. But we'll have to see. So leave your thoughts in comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.